Hey everybody, Madeline here to look at the astrology for August 2025. We're going to talk about some major transits that are happening and how that's going to impact each sign. I'm going to go through all the 12 signs and I'm going to pull cards for everybody. So stick around and let's get started. All right. So this is going to be a very interesting month. It begins with a pretty powerful transit, which only happens, every couple of years, but in these two signs, probably 30 years or so. But Mars is going to move into the sign of Libra and oppose Saturn, which is in the sign of Aries. Now, Saturn is debilitated in Aries and Mars is debilitated in Libra. Or let's just say Saturn is, yeah, debilitated in Aries. Uh, Mars is fall in Libra, so it's not, but neither planet is really functioning in their preferred manner of functioning in either of these signs, and they're opposing each other. So, I mean, that's going to be really interesting. So, the cardinals are going to feel it the most because it's going to square or oppose or conjunct. If you have a cardinal at the early degree points, you're going to feel this. So, what's it going to be about? Well, we're going to experience we got Saturn in retrograde where we're clearing up old karmic cycles. And I'm seeing that in my readings. I'm really seeing a lot of people faced with the challenge of trying to not follow their old ways of operating in these certain circumstances so that they can end a pattern, a cycle that you can only end these cycles through changing your reaction to them when they show up again. That's how we change. We change in the experience. So these are showing up right now for a lot of people to make different choices that are counter to what we would normally choose to do. So I mean, that Mars and Libra is coming in. And one of the things we're learning to do right now, because Neptune is in Aries, is to reduce conflict reaction. In other words, to not react to pain and struggles in relationships with conflict, or to not be avoiding conflict so that you're not stepping up in some way to avoid conflict. So it's around finding peace, Mars moving into Libra, finding ways to create harmony. Now, it can be setting a boundary, it can be expressing something important that needs to be expressed, it can be not reacting in a fighty or conflicting way, or shall we say, aggressive way, and shifting into more empathic ways, no matter what we do. But for some people, it might be setting a boundary or cutting ties, or because we have to. It depends on our own cycle of karma. So this Mars is coming in opposing Saturn. Saturn in the sign, Saturn likes to be in Libra because it likes to have harmony, harmonic relationships, create peace. Mars likes to be in Aries because it likes to initiate and act, take action, and is aggressive, So we've got this sort of conversation going on between how we are going to start operating, clearing our karma in ways that don't create that are either conflict avoidant, that is causing us to create karma for ourselves, or that is not, or is creating conflict out of reaction and non-constructive. So we're going to go through all the 12 signs with that energy that's happening at the beginning of the month. So some people say to me, when does the good stuff happen? When is it going to start? I'm telling you, very, very soon. We're going to have Jupiter and Venus together as well this month on the 12th at 14 degrees of Cancer. That is going to sparkle up our chart in our Cancer houses, which is already looking pretty good by now. I hope you're seeing. Now, a lot of things that happen during these transits, we have eclipses coming up. So a lot of people and a lot of these beginnings, a lot of people don't see the good seed that's being sprouted sometimes. Some of these really good transits are bringing like that new moon in Leo. Maybe people aren't really seeing that yet. Hang in there. Some of these little things that happen around these times are indicators. Remember, these are all aspecting, a lot of these transits are aspecting Saturn. So we're seeing the small seedlings, we're seeing the little sprouts here. So you don't want to put too much expectation on some of these, But when you look at the astrology and the transit that happened at the same time that these things happen, you realize what a big oak tree this is going to become and how exciting and good it is. So that's something to keep your eye on, because while we're going through this karma clearing, by the way, which is not easy, we're resolving and untangling still some karmic ties and knots and ways of operating that are not for our highest good or others. Um, the challenges are still there for that. So that's going to, and some people are more focused on that, which is fine because we are supposed to be more focused on that. But in the background, especially with Neptune there, we're not seeing the whole picture, and there's a lot of good that we're not seeing that's starting to sprout, that's starting to grow. The undercurrent is awesome, really. Now we're going to see that when on the 12th, when Venus and Jupiter conjoin, and they create this like two very powerfully benefic planets that bring us lots of wealth and abundance and love. I mean, basically everything we want. It's the dream come true transit. So we're going to look at that for all the 12 signs. We're going to look at who and how exactly that's going to impact each sign. Then we do have what other major transits to consider? Well, Mercury is going to go direct here on the 11th. Mars is going to make that transit opposite Saturn on the 6th, and it'll last about a week. So basically we've got Mercury going direct on the 11th, that Mars opposite Saturn around the same time as Mercury retrograde. At the same time, the Venus and the Jupiter conjoin. It's going to be a beautiful day around the mid-August. I'm going to share the chart so you can see what I'm talking about, because that middle of the month is going to be incredibly powerful. And look, it forms a amazing kite. I try not to be too, I'm ruled by Jupiter. I'm rising Cancer, which means Jupiter's in my sign. I'm Sagittarius sun and moon Pisces. So I try not to be too Jupiterian and like, well, because, it can be over, what do they call it? Sagittarius can be a little over optimistic, I suppose. So anyway, but you got to admit, that's a beautiful picture right there. This is happening on August 7th. We're going to form this kite on August 6th. As soon as Mars makes that entry into the sign of Libra, we're starting to get this powerful kite. So honestly, this transit, if it does feel difficult, it's a major, beautiful breakthrough and sends us onto this new journey. We break through some sort of by seeking harmony, which might be that we need to find inner peace or outer peace. We need to be more assertive, or we need to be less aggressive. One of these we have to find, depending on our own journey of our karmic clearing, is going to get shifted. We're going to change that. And then it suddenly sort of opens this beautiful flow into our lives, this blessed new beginnings in the Saturn retrograde, where we're really connecting with our internal motive, an internally motivated point. What do you call it? Intrinsic motivated, with that Saturn there, with all these kites, everything pointing to that Saturn. So our Saturn houses are going to light up, which is, we're going to go through all the 12 signs on our Saturn houses. And so this is a breakthrough. This is something, so as hard as it may be to go through some of these transits, they are breakthrough transits that Saturn wants us to mature and grow up and become more relationship material, because this is always going to be around relationship. Axis Libra Aries. So this is about relationships, which impact all aspects of our lives. They don't have to be our marriage or romantic. It's friendships, contracted relationships. We're all here in a group. We're all in some kind of a relationship with multiple different types of relationships with multiple different types of people. So this is going to be some big shift that and most of our karma is going to be created in our relationships and how we're relating. And so with this transit here, we're really going to be looking at that on a deep level, Saturn retrograde, how we create conflict, how we're not, or how we need to not be avoidant. Anyway, I'm going to go into more depth about that later on, because I could talk all day about this transit. All right. So when we look at these transits here, so we're looking at the Mars opposite Saturn transit, which is making a beautiful, I mean, some people are going to hit this hard, but it's a growth point and it's a transformation and it's ending up awesome on the other side. So I think the conflict is resolved in this, or balance is found, in my opinion. And if it has to go through a little bit of conflict to get there and opposition, because usually oppositions, if they hit your chart, you do see an issue show up, that has to be sort of worked through. I'm doing this. We're not going to do it that way this time. We're going to communicate. We're going to open up. We're trying not to be that reactive, aggro, energetic in our relationship contract agreements. Or we have to be more that way. We have to set more boundaries. Because I'm reading with people all different types of ways that they have to step into breaking a pattern here. Um, so, so yeah, so we're looking at that. Okay, so we're starting on the 6th here. We see the Mars and Saturn opposition. And now we're going to move to the next day is the 11th, where Mercury stations direct, right? Well, not the next day, but the next transit. So there's Mercury. We're still in this kite formation. We still have this opposition going on. Mercury is now direct at 4 degrees of Leo, very close to that new moon, by the way. So that's going to initiate that new moon, guys. If you aren't seeing anything, a lot of people did see something, but they wouldn't have considered that it. Sometimes it's somebody contacted you, you got an email that day, or, Anyway, this is going to start going forward. We got a beautiful rectangle, mystic rectangle this day where we're getting downloads and guidance and clarity and that kite. We're all being led here to this intuitive guided to go in that internal intrinsic motivated direction that we know is going to put our passion into for the next 29 years, that we'll be able to sustain an interest in new moon Leo and what inspires us, right? So we're going to get over some sort of blockage that we have to being fully in our power in relationships that creates a cycle of karma. We're going to clear that up, and then that's that transit. Then we're going to go to the 12th, where we have this amazing transit the next day, OMG transit at 14 degrees of Cancer with the opposition and Mercury direct. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else in the center of this month that we should look at to throw in on this. Oh, the new moon. So let's throw in that new moon, the new moon on the 9th. Oh, sorry, it's a full moon on the 9th. Hello. That is after, oh, we didn't even do that. So let's go back to the 9th. So we've got this full moon in Aquarius. Look at the astrology for that full moon in Aquarius. Mercury is still in retrograde though, but still, I mean, we're going to see a lot in this full moon. We're going to discover the truths. We're going to be liberated. This is a powerful full moon. A lot to talk about on that. So I'll go through that for each of the 12 signs. But basically, we're breaking through and stepping into our sovereign paths in some sort of fearless capacity with a huge amount of universal assistance. This is the time to trust your dreams and go for it. Uranus is that those long-term dreams, those long-term gains and your tribe and I mean that's a fabulous full moon. So that's happening all around the August center. This is going to be a fantastic month. We're going to have a big breakthrough. We're going to step onto some beautiful new path that really inspires us. Most likely, we've broken through layers of karmic baggage that has been holding us down and causing problems in our lives. We're now stepping into being fully more empowered who we are without the sort of mess of relating in relationships in ways that cause us problems, you know. And now we're stepping into our dharmic purpose, why we're here on Earth. If you're alive on this Earth right now, you're part of the New Earth movement, and it's starting in this full moon. I mean, I think this full moon makes it very, very clear what our dharmic purpose and role is in the new Earth, in the transformation of the two eras. And, it is the golden era, but, we have to clear karma to get there. And that's not pretty. Shakespeare says nothing is good or bad. It is only thinking that makes it so. So it is, if you think going through these karmic challenges are hard, that's just what you think, because the universe says, no, 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 no. This is fantastic. You got a clean slate. We're starting over. We know better. We can do things better now. I mean, what a gift. So, okay, I am now going to go through each of the 12 signs. All righty. Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising. I suggest you listen to the beginning of this video for the report that I make with more detail about the transits that are happening this month. And now I'm going to go into more detail into how they specifically aspect your chart. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that you're Sagittarius, which means you're ruled by Jupiter, and your planet Jupiter is an exaltation for the whole year. So that brings you a most likely a very auspicious and abundant year. So that's good news for Sagittarians. So let's go ahead and pop the chart and go into what this looks like for you. So here we do. We have Venus and Jupiter in your first house, in the sign of Cancer. Jupiter's an exaltation in your eighth house. Beautiful. Some sort of finance. Either you join resources with your partner or you meet a divine partner because Venus rules your 11th house, either through social media or networking or online. And then Venus also rules your 6th house. So this is a work-related auspicious new beginning because Venus is squaring Saturn, and we all know that we're beginning this big new 29-year cycle. And for you, that's happening in your 5th house, which can be performing, which can be entrepreneurial ventures, which can be collaborative creative projects with friends. Let's say you're a musician, so you bond together with other musicians. And these are friendships and these are connections that are going to last. If you are making connections with people that don't last, they most likely fall apart during these energies. But we are going to see Sagittarians becoming very, very auspicious in some sort of creative venture. Can also indicate having a child. This could indicate because Jupiter rules your first house. And we could say with Uranus in your 7th house, a lot of changes are going to happen through having a relationship. And so we could be seeing, if you haven't met your person or if you have met your person, it doesn't matter. We're looking at joint resources and some sort of some sort of money coming from the outside sources could happen too. You could get some sort of funding for a project. You could refinance a property. You could also be wanting to buy a property because Cancer is always home, family. So perhaps you pool your resources and buy a property together or rent a place. But there is a focus and a devotion to some sort of creative venture and a project that you're going to do with this connection. Now, mostly it is romantic, but it can be other partnership agreements because you're going to have Uranus in your 7th house for 8 years where you're going to meet surprising connections with people that you can make good partnership agreements with. Because this Uranus is sextiling Saturn at the same time as this Venus squares. So now the other thing, Sagittarius could be ending relationships as well in this energy and pulling apart a connection or joint resources, and then you become more abundant as your own, and you're not being held down by another person's debt or other person's taxes or something like that. But basically, this is an energy that's going to shift you into a very abundant because Jupiter in Cancer is super abundant. So whatever happens, if it does scare you in this process, because we have a square, or you're feeling broke, don't worry. This is all opening up here and you're going to be feeling very abundant very soon. This is the house of sudden windfalls or sudden losses. You could also really increase your debt with Jupiter in the 8th. And also don't forget your Jupiter in your 8th is your chart ruler. So you may get slightly self-destructive in these energies, but try not to spend too much and get into big a debt. But if you do it as an investment, as a smart long-term investment, this is going to work out very, very well for you. Any debt you incur in the 8th house that is not just consumer spending, that is proper investment, is going to pay you 20-fold. It is an extremely good time to take a risk and invest. And it could be invest in property and real estate because it's in Cancer. So that was just to sort of come off on the start out the month for you with Venus there in your 8th house. And there's going to be a conjunction there on the 12th when something really fabulous does happen. And, you're going to see this connection bring you some very auspicious forward momentum, ability to give you a lot of forward momentum in some sort of creative project. You could say some sort of income, or let's say it's an inheritance, which then enables you to afford to have a child, that kind of a thing. Something comes forward on the 12th that enables something else to go forward because it's a huge universal financial support to do it, to go forward. So that's fabulous. So we do have Mercury going retrograde, going direct in your 9th house. So all of these things you're going to feel them because they happen that Venus and Jupiter come together on the 12th. Mercury's going to go direct on the 11th in your ninth house, which is travel, or teaching. Leo over the ninth, amazing teachers, coaches. Because you're going to have well, we'll get to that in a minute. I don't want to jump around, but Mercury's about to station direct there where that new moon was in Leo, and it's going to be opposite Pluto, where we overcome some sort of fear. So there is some sort of breakthrough happening when that Mercury goes direct, where you really feel liberated over a fear and you're able to sort of have a spiritual awakening or counter opposite opinion. And when you have this counter belief, you have more faith in it, it's really going to enable things to go forward for you in a really positive way. That's because your ruling planets, you ought to just consider this whole year with Jupiter and your ruling planet that everything's going to really look pretty darn good. Now Mars goes into Libra, into your 11th house. So you could have conflicts with friends and groups. There could be conflicts. There could have been an old creative group that you were collaborating with on a creative project that there could have been conflict around that made it not happen, and that Mercury in direct now makes it go in. This is a Dharma house, so it's like your true calling now goes forward. You're really excited about it. It inspires you in the 11th house because Mars is going to be there. Mars is going to be in the 11th house, your house right here. We're going to change it. Opposite Saturn, and it makes a beautiful kite to this creative project that's opening up for you. Somehow you're able to work through the disagreements. Now you could get triggered. There could be some of these issues showing up again, but this time both sides of this potentially very fabulously creative group has found a harmonic balance between the two of you so that you can work together. It's a beautiful transit. Now it can show up as conflicts or ending certain. Maybe you're being creative in certain projects or working with other people that are not necessarily as honest and true or real as this connection is that's going to show up here. That is your real destiny that brings you notoriety, success. So this is a very interesting transit for you with that Mars in your 11th house. Be careful not to get in too many intellectual debates or conflicts on social media. Find peace with Mars in Libra. That's what we want to do. We want to find that balanced, harmonic middle position. So that's something to watch out for Mars there. And then we did just talk about the Venus and Jupiter conjunction on the 12th in your 8th house, where you could have some sort of financial windfall, but something very powerful happens where you could join resources with a partner. That really enables you, or there's some sort of inheritance that really enables a project to go forward. Everything is pointing to that Saturn in your 5th, which is some sort of creative venture or making a child. It's basically something happens where there was nothing, a creation. So that looks great. Now, Saturn, opposite Mars, Saturn is in your 5th house, which you're clearing some sort of karmic pattern in friendships and in your connections and in your groups and your tribe, because we've got this opposition happening. So there's a karmic pattern where I would say that there's triggering that causes conflict in your friendships or to cut off friendships. In other words, there might have been, because Mars is ruling, where's your Scorpio house? In your 12th. So there's some sort of pattern that you're changing where you take things personally and you either feel rejected or triggered or unvalued, but something is shifting in your energy there with the Saturn in retrograde in your 5th, where you see your value more and you aren't so sensitive. And so you're able to sort of rationalize a lot better with Mars. Libra is more rational. So you're finding some sort of rationale about some of the challenges that happened before that did not that made this connection or this project unable to be gone forward with at that time. Now goes forward with bold understanding with that kite there. It's your Dharma. It's a Dharma house. This is a Dharma house, Dharma house, Dharma house. This is like you are stepping into your true. What do I align my life with my soul purpose. You're aligning your life with your soul purpose there. Beautiful. Good month ahead in general, except for that Oops, that goes, except for that Mars Saturn opposition and the Mercury Pluto opposition, there's definitely trigger opportunities there to become sort of to lose it. Sagittarians are a little fiery. So if you have a propensity to rage, like my ex Sagittarius husband did, this could be a time where it kind of flares up. But we are learning with that Saturn in retrograde that sometimes the way we act and we behave creates results we don't want. So maybe that point comes to that place, but with this time we find our center and we stay rational. So what else should we look at here? We have this full moon at 16:59. Basically, it's about 17 degrees of Aquarius, and that's going to be in your third house. That happens on the 9th. So we see we've got that Mercury direct on the 11th, the Jupiter-Venus conjunction on the 12th, and this full moon on the 9th. So this is and that opposition of Saturn, Mars on the 8th. Is that whole week of August that's coming up is going to be very interesting. It's going to be turbulent. It's going to be, there's a lot of movements, things shifting, things happening, perhaps conflicts, but then we're working through them. So there's some sort of big shift happening at this time of the month. It's going to be very interesting. And then with that full moon in Aquarius, let's get to that. It's going to be in your third house on the, when did I say it was? On the 9th. So here we are. The sun is at 17 degrees Leo. And then the moon, let's go back a day. It depends where you are, of course. I'm in West Coast, so I'm hitting it more on a 8th. But here we go. The moon is, we want the moon at 16, 17 degrees. For this is the day. Let me get on the day. Okay, this is not, I want to get Leo back. I want to get Sagittarius in on this. So we got to get Sagittarius. So we're just going to have to put Saggy back in on here. But anyway, this is in your third house, and which is media communication, short distance travel, people that you know in your vicinity. This is a full moon in your third house. I have seen people like perhaps mothers, maybe that's why you get inheritance. Someone could pass away, but it wouldn't be out of the blue. Or it could be that you become very, very, very clear on some humanitarian project that you want to do, a media project. It becomes very clear what this media project is. Mercury is about to go direct in your 9th house, where you have a shift in belief in this media project again, because your faith is being restored and inspired about a creativity. Leo in your 9th house, about some sort of venture project you're going forward. But that full moon really shows you a big green light in some humanitarian effort, like you get to go somewhere, you get to travel somewhere. You know, there's a big green light on this full moon, and your destiny is, this is a very positive full moon. I mean, it's got a rectangle, it's got a trine. I mean, this is where you have a big breakthrough and you find a big shift of reality. It's almost like a timeline shift where you suddenly break through a whole bunch of struggles and you sort of find yourself in some sort of new paradigm where you're on a venture of some sort of creative, what do you call it? Entrepreneurial or new business or new media project. That's all just sort of happening all this time. This month, things are really going to sort of put you on the other side of some sort of effort that you've been on. I would call it a breakthrough. And then we have that new moon in Virgo in your 10th house, which is your career house, which is like the new beginning in your work. So these are big new beginnings. And this for Sagittarians, it's hitting all your Dharma and your work houses. And so somehow you're financially blessed in order to take some sort of project, creative media project forward. Because it's set, you know, this is what it looks like. It's aspecting Uranus, which is the Aquarius energy. And then there's the third house, which is media. And then the 5th house is creative. And then Libra is writing, social media, humanitarian effort. And then the new beginning in Virgo, the eclipses are going to be there for Saggies in their 10th and their 9th. So their careers are completely reshaping their careers in living situations, relocation. Maybe you make more money so you can relocate and live somewhere different. Or you get into a relationship and you move in with that person because you have the North Node in your in your fourth house. So things are going to be active in your fourth house, which is living, where you live, roots. And there's a dharma connection to this. So it means when you get onto your dharmic destiny, it may shift your location. Often it does. And if you're getting into a relationship, that again could be a location shifter. And also this new moon in your 10th house can be a location shifter. But basically you're aligning with a dharmic creative project, most definitely involving a relationship of importance, significance. So, all right, Sagittarians, I hope that is helpful, and please like and subscribe if you haven't. And if you would like a personal reading, feel free to contact me. The information is below. Have a wonderful weekend. Namaste. Hi, Capricorn, Sun, Moon, Rising. I suggest you watch the beginning of this video where I have a introduction where I go into more detail about these transits that I'm about to talk about and how they're aspecting your chart. So the most important thing for Capricorn to know is that your ruling planet is in the sign of Aries and in retrograde. I'm sure your energy feels slow and heavy and or you just feel tired. But really what it's doing is it's trying to slow you down from being, let's say, that worker focused being that you are, and to really reflect and make sure you align with an intrinsically motivated and intrinsically fulfilling path that is based in belief in yourself and based in the knowledge of your divine creation and in faith of your ability to manifest what you desire. That's that's Saturn in Aries. Aries is what we desire, and it is also lines up with our Dharma. So when we walk a path that we desire, we align with our Dharma. So Capricorn are really shifting right now with your planet in retrograde to connect with your true desired dharmic path and to really become able to devote to it because you know it's the right thing, because that's Neptune is conjoining it and it's in retrograde, which for me, my experience, it brings clarity, but then I am Pisces moon. So maybe that's for Pisces moon people. So anyway, let's go ahead and share the chart for you. Fabulous Capricorns. What do we see here? We see, let me just get you, there's the day of the first, and let's get your chart, your sign on the ascendant here. So this retrograde, your planet's in the fourth house, so a lot of movement is happening in the area of your family, and let's just put it this way, that you're shifting karma related to family heritage and mother, but also this will involve you becoming more aligned with where you want to live and settle, and that does connect you with your dharma. But so really, really move to where you desire in your heart. That'll line you up with your dharma very well. And you're gaining clarity on that right now. And usually if you're Capricorn rising with Aries over your fourth, Arizona, places that are arid, hot, and dry. Anyway, so the month begins with your ruling planet in retrograde in your fourth house, causing some pretty heavy energies, tension around family, but also really deep diving with that healing Chiron in retrograde and Neptune, understanding that you've really aligned your path with what was more Capricornian hard work and discipline rather than what you truly desired. So now that's shifting. It takes a while though. So because you're going to integrate this into your soul, this is integration of soul to the material version of you with that healing involved and with the clarity that you're going to devote to this. So it needs to be the right thing. So, all right, so that's looking at Saturn in retrograde. So now let's talk about, so we've got this big thing happening with Mercury and Pluto. We had the new moon in Leo at the end of this month, which would have initiated some sort of joint resources. Could have been a relationship transit for sure. And now, or some kind of communication or something happening around that period on the 29th when Mercury was opposing Pluto June 29th. And then the new moon, I think there was just recent, but this has been a building energy. because then Mercury went on and went, and it is now going to go retrograde to that same degree. Sorry if I'm jumping all over the place. Mercury's going to go direct on the 11th here. Oh, sorry, wrong way. Mercury is going to go direct on the 11th, and it's going to go back to that degree point that it was on the 29th, very close to that point. The 29th, it was like 1 degree, and now it was like, now it's like, it's going to be at 4 degrees, but basically, and then the new moon was at 2 degrees. So, there probably was news out in the world, big truths being revealed, and a lot of intensity around that time. All you have to do is go online and look up. You'll see some sort of big reveal was happened. Then I kind of think I know what it was. But also in our own personal lives, we would have seen some sort of surprising breakthrough in communication in the sign of Leo, where there was courage and a breakthrough. In order, because this new moon in Leo, even though we don't see it very loudly right now, that new moon in Leo, which happened on the, gosh, I don't have it in front of me. Let's see. So this full moon has happened on the 8th, so 2 weeks ago. So that would have been around the 20th, 21st. And that new moon, even though it wasn't very clear at that time, something would have happened that's small, that was seemed insignificant, now really expands into something more when Mercury goes in direct station at that same degree point opposite Pluto, where we have that another step forward in that breakthrough of courage and stepping forward and perhaps tension, you know, but all for the purpose of this new moon beginnings, which are very significant because it happens sextiling, trining Saturn. See, Mercury, when Mercury goes direct, it's going to trine Saturn. So something is going forward in pieces, in little bits, as we gain courage to break through some sort of debilitating or breaking through our barriers, fear barriers, and communication barriers, ego barriers, Saturn Aries retrograde. So that is the beginning of the month. Okay, so we're really seeing big shifts happening at the second week of at the end of the first week of the month, beginning of the second week, because we've got that Mercury direct at the 11th on the 11th, where you're going to see something really go forward motion. It's more strongly if it impacted your chart in direct motion, but most people felt it. I felt it, and I don't have a direct conjunction, and something happened for me. But anyway, so then we've got the Mars is going to go into Libra, which is going to it's going to go squaring your 7th house. Sorry, let's get Capricorn. Sorry, squaring your 1st house. Let's get you guys back on the ascendant here. So Mars is going to go into Libra, into your 10th house. So you may terminate a career path that you've taken in a while because it is not what's true for you. You could have conflict with people that you work for, and that you have to learn how to change and not getting conflict, not battle with them, not because with that Saturn in Aries, we're learning not to have aggravated interactions. You may have to deal with the law. You may have to deal with the government. You may have to do paperwork or do some sort of justice, legal stuff. Could be getting a divorce because it's squaring your 7th house. So you have to initiate legal stuff. But again, all this Mars Libra is to try to do things law-wise, balanced, fair, just, diplomatic, harmonic. So that's really a big transit for you guys at the beginning of the month for all cardinals, because it's going to square or oppose or conjoin. So, but again, this is the clearing karmic process of the Saturn retrograde, where we're learning to balance. Something definitely big is going to happen in the world during this period, no doubt about it. But we can get through it in our own lives by practicing the balanced decision to walk balanced and calm, not rushed and stressed. Okay, so then we're going to look at, let's see, we talked about, so that's all those things. Oh, those are all the things sort of happening at the middle of the month. I mean, at that week. Mercury going direct, that full moon happening in Aquarius, which is huge in your 2nd house. where some sort of financial windfall can occur. You suddenly see exactly how you're here to feed yourself and make yourself a good, stable financial. It's like a financial windfall breakthrough with that new moon in your eighth house. There is some nice financial stability coming in, perhaps through joint resources or investments that you've made. But we're looking at some good breakthroughs in your finances, and or just perhaps a big clarity or a big opportunity that does align you with your true path, which is to serve humanity. So that's a very beautiful full moon. But we could see some things happening in the world, just so you know. But in our own lives, if we're walking it consciously, we're going to walk through this very, very well, especially Capricorn, who've done a lot of work. So your energies, you've really learned how to go more intuitive and spiritual and align with a higher other than the ego. And you're going to walk through this beautifully. There's a kite there to your planet, to your ruling planet. So you guys can get through this with an intuitive guidance, following that hunch. And then we've got this fabulous relationship transit for you on the 12th, where somebody from your past is coming in. That Mercury is on that 12th. Let's see, Mercury is no longer retrograde. So it could be a new person coming in, but I'm seeing we have Uranus sextiling Mercury, so there's surprise communication, but also we're seeing divine partnerships and soul contracted twin flame type lineups here, so that you step, because if you're about to step into a new 29-year, 35-year karmic cycle with Neptune there, or a 25-year Saturn cycle, you're going to get into a very serious relationship here. So this is going to be the right thing coming in, and you're going to really know that because your ruling planet is in retrograde. So you're very internally intrinsic, motivated. You're going to get, that's the right relationship. This is a very empathic connection of nurturing person coming in for you. So just relax and let that, but don't try to push the situation, because you want it to be the right person, which means it's going to flow. Cancer energy. Okay. So then we have that fabulous transit. It can also be partnership agreements coming in, a contracted situation. I mean, we've got a lot. We had that full moon in your second house. We've got that new moon in your eighth. This could be a contracted partnership where you're financed for some creative venture, that second house that serves humanity, that could be out in front of the public because it's Aquarius, or in like social media, or you got Saturn in your fourth, you got the North Node in your third, which could be media projects coming in for you. This is a great time for Saturns. You're really stepping into your true soul's path and purpose, if you're consciously aware of all of this. Otherwise, you're going to be nudged. If you're in resistance to this, which many people who don't know astrology might be, they're feeling very concerned right now, and probably wanting to make some sort of secure based decision, because it feels so up in the air, everything right now. All right, so then we've got the new moon Virgo. We've talked about everything here. Yep. Venus goes into Leo, but that's the end of the month. But the new moon in Virgo is going to be a biggie, because that's in your ninth house, and that's going to involve travel. It's going to involve higher consciousness, more disciplined spiritual practices, or you teach a spiritual practice, you become a spiritual teacher that teaches a really good health practices, or health, new podcast, new writing a book about health, but or something that your dharma is very high service. You really step into a service oriented energy about your dharma. You wake up to the importance of it being of service, of true service, and it most likely involves health or practical or spirit, day-to-day habits that are really good for us, that are based in causing internal peace, expanding spiritual knowledge to the world, or habits or health, or you just, whatever it is, because it could be going on something else in your chart, but it's a spiritual calling to serve in the way that you are gifted to serve, in a way that you desire, with that Saturn in retrograde in Aries, that you initiate something new. 0 degrees is really things that have not really happened in this planet before. These are new, brand new beginnings. It's an earth sign. It's a trine to your first house. This is your dharmic trine of very good luck. So we'll end it on that note. And I hope you have a wonderful month and that this is clear and helpful. Namaste. Hey Aquarius, Sun, Moon, Rising. I suggest you watch the beginning of this video, the introduction, where I go into more detail about the transits. And now I'm going to go into how these transits impact your chart. And it's going to be an interesting time for you because you have your ruling planet in retrograde at the beginning degrees of Aries, which is the first sign of the zodiac. So this is really, you guys are going to feel this stronger than most, as strong as the Capricorns are feeling it, which is some sort of limbo land energy. But really what's happening is you're being aligned with an intrinsic desire to align you with your true dharmic path. And it's forcing you to slow down and really become more intrinsically motivated about your next steps in your life, so that way you are aligning with your true dharmic path because it is what we truly desire. So, let's go ahead and share the chart for Aquarius. The month, where'd it go? Is it somewhere here? Where do we have it? Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. So let's get to August. So the month begins with the energies of Saturn, your ruling planet, in retrograde and in the sign of Aries, and then a big transit's going to happen, which you're going to feel because Mars is going to go with this is going to happen. So a bunch of stuff is going to happen towards the end of the first week of August. We're going to have Mercury stationing direct at the same degree of the new moon in your seventh house of relationship. So something that happened around June 29th could have been scary news, could have been an argument in a conflict, could have been a breakthrough communication with somebody you're in a partnership agreement with. You got over a fear to really maybe not be so conflict avoidant and to bring something up, or you just got into an argument with your partner, or you got in an argument with a contracted type partnership. But it doesn't have to have been bad. It could have been a breakthrough, it could have been bad, and this is a relationship you're supposed to terminate because something else is supposed to come in on that new moon. So the new moon happened at the end of this month at 2 degrees in your seventh house, which could indicate that if you're in a relationship, your spouse had a new beginning, a new auspicious beginning, or you and your spouse have a new renewed soul contracted joint contract, or you meet your true person in this new moon. But what we're seeing is the seedlings of some major new inspired creative project. Being in the sign of Leo can also be children with your partner, that it was sextiling or trining Saturn in Aries. It was making a trine to Saturn. So this is a long-term committed new beginning that will last about 29 to 35 years. And we're currently clearing karma in order to align with that, because the karma we're clearing for Aquarius is the Mercury karma, because it's in the third house. So it would be an internal negative dialogue that sort of blocks your expansion or doesn't believe in the magical possibilities of a really abundant creative path that you most desire to take, or the relationship you most desire to, or creative project or co-collaborative relationship, creative project or entrepreneurial venture that you've always wanted to do, but you're just either you have negative thinking that keeps pulling you out of these ventures, and these friendships, connections. So something that is a creative project that is supposed to go forward will now, and you may have had communication around this, the 29th of June, where there would have been some, because that's when Mercury was on that position. If I go to 29th of June, Mercury would have been in that position. The 29th of June, whoops. Let's go to weeks here. You'll see. So 29th of June. Where's Mercury? Where did Mercury go? Let's just get to the 29th. I'll find it when we get to the 29th. So there's Mercury at 3 degrees opposite Pluto. The new moon happened with the sun met that position. in let's go to the new moon hit right there um on the early degree of Leo at that same position. Now there's the new moon and it was opposite Pluto. There's the moon, it was earlier that day, hours, but it's opposite Pluto, and Mercury was in retrograde, not in the area, not on that degree point. And now we're going to go to August, and Mercury's going to go direct here on the 11th. Sorry if this is taking a long time. On the 11th, and now we see Mercury stationing direct at that same degree, opposite Pluto. So this theme that started on the 29th of June, that is now going to, that new moon may have had a seedling around, and it would have involved your relationships and partnerships, because that's that is in Leo, would have been in your seventh house. So let's get back to Aquarius here. Which way should we go? Let's go this way. So some kind of new auspicious beginning is going to start opening things up for you. But again, I'm seeing these new beginnings that were sextiling Saturn are happening in these sort of chunks, and information comes forward or these opportunities open up, but there's little steps involved. So big step in this month happens for you around in relation to relationships, contracted agreements. The 11th is when Mercury goes direct. We have that full moon in your first house on the 9th, by the way. This is a very powerful full moon, and there is a connection between that seventh house new moon. Everything is going to be interestingly connected to this new moon in Leo, which would be creative entrepreneurial ventures, having children, or creative something out of nothing. What else is happening around that time? Then Mars is going to be opposite. Mars is going to move into Leo on that Libra, on that 6th or the 7th in your 9th house. So some sort of conflicts and arguments around beliefs or spirituality. There's a fair and balanced resolve. But again, conflicts can occur around beliefs. But again, we're all shifting with this retrograde Saturn to really break some cycle of negative thinking. And then you're going to go into more positive thinking, more into optimistic, more belief in things, something. You're going to have a shift in your belief, but you're going to act, because Mars puts action and forward motion into it. You could also travel, and travel could be a big part of what opens up in this full moon Aquarius in your first house, where you have some sort of revelation as to the mission that you're here to do, and how you're here to serve humanity and be a part of the new Earth movement and step forward into some sort of humanitarian effort that you can devote to, because your ruling planet is in retrograde. You're starting a 29-year cycle. So you really want to get behind this. You really want to do something you can really believe in and get behind. But maybe there was something you really believed in and you wanted to get behind, but now you see clearly that that this is right, but that negative thinking or other beliefs or conflicting beliefs didn't enable you to align with it or devote fully to it, maybe. So anyway, then we've got that so that's the center of the month. We've got that full moon in your first house, where you become something, you have a big awakening about who you are and what you're here to do, and you become a really empowered version of yourself, and you shine brightly in the world. The Aquarius is out in the world, the 11th house, the tribe, and you get your mojo there. And then with that Saturn opposite Mars, we talked about that, where there's this flip where we reverse our position on something and our beliefs around something. Now, the third house is writing projects or media projects too. So that maybe perhaps a media project is the right, or a writing project is important for you to reevaluate. Or shall we say what else could that be? If you're like, I know one Aquarius, she's retiring. So it would be more maybe a hobby of writing, a creative venture that you feel like you want to get behind and do. I see the moon in the 11th house, and this person I know, she does have the moon in the 11th house in Sagittarius. So she probably will step forward and write some of her wisdom that she knows to share with the world. Or on social media, some Aquarians are stepping forward. Aquarius is the house of the media, internet, all that, public relations, the audience, but mostly from a humanitarian motive thing. And then this is a new moon in your 7th, and all these, and that Mercury going direct in that 7th. something involving a contracted partnership or a creative project where you express your creative angle. All right. So then we have that new moon Virgo in your eighth house of joint resources, partnership agreements. So there might be some sort of fabulous, because we've got a lot of assistance from the universe on these new beginnings with kites and all kinds of angles. I'm going to get more into that at the beginning of the reading. And also I'm going to do more posts about that. But we've got a lot of universal supports, this brand new beginning. We're having eclipses in the ninth and the second houses. And I'm remembering to pull a card. I've forgotten to pull cards for everybody. There is a good chance that you quit something because Saturn in your beginning is career. So you're really starting a new career that you ended some because you want to do something else that you didn't have this belief in enough. You didn't, the 11, that's the 11 is Aquarius, right? And Justice, your ninth house, where Mars is going into Libra. And then that's low self-esteem or poverty or not believing in it because you didn't feel you had the money. And Virgo, new beginning in Virgo is some sort of financial resources. Star card shows up. Ace of Pentacles. So in other words, you have faith in some sort of project and you get some sort of funding for it. You feel very confident about it with that eighth house and we have eclipses there. So your career and the source of your income and how you feed yourself is shifting dramatically. There could be a fabulous financial new beginning involving joint resources or an inheritance or outside sources or getting funding and support for this creative Leo project that's involving partnership agreements. Like, for instance, you could get a publishing deal. A lot of good things can happen. And I forgot to talk about one of the biggest transits. I almost signed off here. We've got the Venus and Jupiter in your sixth house, where that again is a house that involves connection to that Virgo energy because it's in your eighth house and it's in your sixth house and that new moon Virgo. So it's like you're really stepping into mission. You really want to be of service to the world. You really aren't you don't want to be a worker slave horse anymore. You want to be someone who really does make some sort of significant increase in the quality of life for humanity, or shall we say, to help alleviate suffering for your humanity. More important, to liberate humanity because you're Aquarius. You're here to lead us into a liberated sovereignty of our own desired path, Leo. So this is joint with Jupiter, Venus, could very well be your joint, your soul contracted partner, your twin flame, your marriage partner. If you're not with that person yet, this would indicate you do get with that person. Most people will. Of course, it depends on your chart, but it really does look like a fabulous month. After that bumpy ride, you're going to feel that, you Aquarius, because you've got Saturn opposite Mars, and that's your ruling planet, Saturn. So you probably will feel, and it is making a sextile to Pluto. So it's not to be afraid of, but there is a breakthrough there, and that's going to be really liberating and empowering for you. So, all right, Aquarius, thanks for watching. Have a wonderful week. And if you would like a personal reading, go ahead. Feel free to contact me and give us a like and subscribe. Namaste. Hey, Pisces, Sun, Moon, Rising. I suggest you listen to the beginning of this video at the introduction where I talk more in detail about these transits that I'm about to talk about and look at how they impact your sign. So the most important transit for you guys to look at this month is the Jupiter transit in the sign of Cancer. So that is transiting. Let's go ahead and pop your chart. It is transiting your fifth house, which is extremely abundant. It's a very good chance, Pisces, if you're in the age range of having children, that this is a big thing that happens for you. Pregnancy, but also entrepreneurial, creative, new collaborative ventures opening up and abundance coming your way on the 12th of August. That is when it happens exactly. But let's go ahead and start with the beginning of the month with Jupiter and Venus right now in your fifth house, bringing you really good collaborative friends, uh, friends that are auspicious that bring you abundance. If you're single, you very most likely meet a friend that then becomes your divine mate because we are looking at joining with Venus and Jupiter, joint soul contracts. It can involve getting pregnant, which is pregnancy, which is a soul contract. And also, but or entrepreneurial creative projects where there was nothing is now something. And this brings you lots of abundance. And you've got Saturn also beginning the month in retrograde in your second house, conjoining Neptune, your other ruling planet, in retrograde, where you're really becoming more intrinsically motivated and really finding your true desired sort of independent path because Aries, Saturn, independence, initiatives, and in your second house, most Pisces are talented, gifted. So there's some sort of creative, financially auspicious new beginning happening in your life that's going to last about 29 years to 35 years, where you're, because you've cleared some sort of, I want to say, survival based, desperate based finance attitude about making money, stepping more into confidence about yourself, believing in your ability to make money, but also a lot of universal support giving you that belief, especially with that beautiful Venus and Jupiter transit in your fifth house, which is the house of luxury and luck. And Jupiter is the planet of luck. Venus is also the planet of luxury. So it's a very good chance your life becomes more, you activate your luxury. They call it Lakshmi in Vedic. Very good year for Pisces. Um, so let's go back to the beginning of the month. We did talk about Saturn retrograde in your second house. Um, and then we've got Mercury. The first thing is that Mercury is going to go direct on I've got a picture put over here. What happened? Mercury on the 11th. Yeah, that's right. So Mercury's going to go direct. So the end of the first week of August is going to be the big move, big shakeup, big things happening. So let's start with the beginning. First of all, Mercury is going to go direct at the same degree that that new moon happened in Leo in your sixth house, which would have been a work house, which would have been a way to really feed yourself. And also it involves your creative talents. And with that, and it's connected to the Venus, Jupiter in your fifth house. And Leo is a fifth house energy. So the way that you're stepping forward to be of service is really through some ability and creative talent that you have, a gift, basically, that you have. So that's Mercury going direct. So this new moon, so around June 29th was when Mercury was opposite Pluto, where you may have had some sort of communication or some sort of, and it may not have seemed significant, where you had a breakthrough of fear or some breakthrough in communication, or somebody communicated from the past because of that new moon comes in at that same degree point opposite Pluto a couple weeks ago. I know this sounds confusing, but Mercury, I'll explain. Mercury is going to go back to this point where the new moon was and where June 29th, Mercury initially opposed Pluto. So some sort of communication occurred um, that would have initiated some sort of breakthrough in your new Leo beginning. Because this is the Leo new moon it was sex trining Saturn, which means there's some sort of creative, auspicious new beginning starting. It's hard to see how important it is right now. But when we have that initiated or on that new moon, which was around the 20th of July, there would have been some sort of communication, some sort of breakthrough from the also involving June 29th when Mercury initially entered that spot, and then the new moon hits at that spot, and then Mercury hits at that spot again when does Mercury hit that spot? August 12th. So I'm going to try to clear this up for you. I'm Pisces moon and Neptune is making me feel very foggy about your reading here, but I'm going to try to clear it up. Mercury direct in your sixth house, a project goes forward, a creative venture that is connected to the Venus and Jupiter in your fifth house. Very auspicious, very good trining Saturn in your second house that brings you a long-term stable financial security. You're going to see when Mercury stations direct that your life goes forward very clearly, that these new beginnings that have been hinted at previously now become very, very loud and forward motion. So then we also have Mars is going to be at that same time opposite Saturn in your second house in your eighth house. So this could be a financial crisis, or it could be the opposite. It could be that you are able to pay off a debt, or that you are now able to take on balancing a debt. But again, this could involve a crisis or conflict. But with Neptune and Saturn together in retrograde, we're clearing karma around negative energies around finances and desperate energies around finances and fear-based energies around finances that throw you into karmic behavior that blocks your abundance. So there's some sort of balancing out of these fears and taking on responsibility and maturity around finances and other people's resources or debt. So there's a big balancing of your resources and your income, debt versus income, perhaps flips, because this is a reversal energy. You suddenly have way more money than your debt, and you end a debt, you balance it off. Beautiful transit for Pisces. Um, so we're looking at the end of that first week. So we're looking at the 11th, Mercury goes direct, Mars goes opposite Saturn on the 6th, and then we also have Jupiter and Venus on the 12th. Mars opposite Saturn on the 8th, sorry, that, and then we've got this full moon on the 9th. So this whole period of the 8th to the 12th is really radical. There's a lot of big shifts happening. And so in Aquarius is your 12th house. Very good chance you travel. Jupiter's a travel. Very good chance you go into if you're a musician, you could go and do festivals out in the country, out in the rural area or something, or travel to long distance other cultures. Um, it could be this is a big energy shift for everybody, and this really puts you into your true dharmic path. Also, by the way, that Aries retrograde Saturn in your second house is lining you up with your true desired way of earning money, which could very well, and look at that nice sextile and that kite shining right there on that Saturn in your second house. You get money from some sort of travel venture, humanitarian effort, could be photography, filming, out in the country, but some sort of beautiful opportunity opens up for you that really it really supports this new way of making money for you. It's really supported by the universe with that kite pointing to Saturn, where we're bringing these new beginnings, opposing our fears in that eighth house. Mars in that we're overcoming some sort of fear, and we feel really abundant enough to take on our money fears and to sort of delete them basically. But I'm a Pisces moon. So but for Pisces rising, you're going to feel this more stronger than a Pisces moon. But this is a very nice angle to Pluto where I do see you're liberated financially by this full moon, in my opinion. And then we have a new moon in Virgo in your seventh house of partnerships. So you come into a contracted new agreement. You could either get married, again, you could have children, a new beginning, or sole contracted partnership agreement with your spouse or your person that you married. They have a brand new work, new beginning. Um, or you meet your new person if you haven't met them yet with that Venus Jupiter, and you then initiate a new relationship and also a new dharmic path and role co-contracted with that partnership. If your partner gets pregnant, you're entering in a contracted situation with them. That could be a new moon. I'm going to pull some cards for Pisces for the new moon in their seventh house. What could be coming for Pisces? So it looks like there is wow, basically new financial beginnings. I'm getting some tough cards, but Pisces tend to have things a little bit. I'll go into that in another video. My son is Pisces, so they're learning because Pisces can have they've got they tend to have a little bit of a doomsday mentality, and that throws them into confusion because it by nature you're ruled by Jupiter, you're supposed to have faith. So when and Sagittarius is the temperance card, so that's also a Jupiter card. But basically, you're supposed to learn how to relax and be more financially abundant because these are thoughts that are not true that throw you out of financial harmony. See, the Four of Swords comes up. In other words, you're finding work. There's work situations that bring you peace. There's the Pisces energies that is your true. I'm going to say you have a spiritual breakthrough in your finances where you start to have faith in yourself, believe in yourself, Saturn, and you matured. And so you really do feel at peace about these new financial beginnings. In other words, you feel your future. The days of you being broke are over. And you're realizing what you do karmically because you've got Aries over that second house. So Saturn's in retrograde there. So you're realizing Capricorn's over your 11th. So you tend to be, you're clearing out karma through survival based, either trying to survive through social media or trying to survive survival based connections that you think are really are your true tribe, but really you're in ego and choosing from an ego state because they seem like they would be the right people. But now we're really entering into these new financial auspicious beginnings that you can really commit to because you're in your power. You've woken up to your gifts. You know who you really are. You believe in yourself with Saturn in your second. You've just had Saturn through your first house. So these are inspired new beginnings, big new beginnings for Saturn. I mean, for Pisces. And you're getting a lot of support from Jupiter, your ruling planet, being in a very positive energy. So thank you for watching. And if you would like a personal reading, I have my link and info below. Do like and subscribe and have a wonderful month. Namaste.